Hey everyone, it's Shock here bringing you 4th Generation Battle. It's the last battle of 2011. It's versus another Serebiian. I don't remember where this guy's from and what his username was, but I decided I was like, 4th Gen OU battle, and he was up for it. The song is Into Dust by Mazzy Star from the game Gears of War 3. I will actually be posting Gears of War 3 online matches, probably every Sunday. I'm probably going to do a Gears of War 3 Sunday, and Ace Combat 4 will resume, followed by Ace Combat 6 and Assault Horizons. So anyways, back to the battle. I'm going to lead off with my typical DX, and he's going to lead with his Yuxi, and I'm going to go straight for that taunt. And obvious taunt's obvious taunt, so he's going to switch now, he's going to go on to his Crimson. His, wow, Scissor, I almost forgot the name of that. So I go for the Stealth Roxas, he goes for the Bullet Punch. And I'm just like, whatever, I got a Focus Sash. But he's actually going to bring me down all the way down to my Focus Sash, and I'm like, troll, lol. And I go for the Stone Edge, and I miss. And I'm like, oh, crap, because I know that would have done a decent bit to his Crimson. So obviously I feint, do another Bullet Punch. I go into Tito! God, I love this Arcanine. And he's going to switch, predicting the obvious Fire Fang, into Tallahassee. And I go for the Fire Fang, and I'm like, crap. I was like, well, I could switch out now, predicting the Surf, or I could stay in and go for the Thunder Fang. So I switch out, going into Terror, and he actually goes for the Toxic, and I'm just like, well, I guess that was an okay prediction. I mean, it's not too great, because now I'm going to take Toxic and Life Orb. So he's going to switch out, predicting the Psychic, and he goes on to Yuxi, and I actually predict his switch in, excellent prediction on my part, and go for the Life Orb Shadow Ball. And that turns out to be a 2 HKO. But as you can see, my HP is going away faster and faster because of the Life Orb and Toxic. So I go for the next Shadow Ball, and that's going to take out his Yuxi, and I'm like, oh yeah! And there he goes. But now I'm down below half, and I may survive 2 more turns. But at this point, I'm just like, I'm going to switch out because I don't want to fodder him off. And I'm going to go into Tito to get the Intimidate off as he goes for the Bullet Punch, and I'm like, he must be Choice Banded. And, I take that fairly nicely as he goes out into Tallahassee, and I do predict the switch, and I go for the Thunder Fang, and I'm just like, oh, yeah! And that is going to almost take him out. I'm like, oh, wow. Darn, it came so close. So, he's going to switch out and go into Gliscor. And I do believe I went for the Extreme Speed anyways, because I was just like, he's in the easy HP range. He'll probably switch on to something that can definitely boss that Thunder Fang. Or obviously Gliscor, which would take it like a boss because it doesn't affect it. And he goes on to Lopunny, and he switches. I don't know why he switched, but I switch now, and I go into Terror, as now I take Life Orb damage. And I go for the Psychic, because I'm just like, okay, I can completely obliterate this guy's Lopunny. But he lives, and I'm just like, what? And he goes for the Return. I'm like, okay, well, they're good. Goodbye, Terror. So now I go out into Tito, I get the Intimidate off, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm just going to E-Speed for the kill, and I do that, and I'm just like, oh yeah, because I don't actually know what Lopunny's base speed is, because I haven't really fought it very often. But anyways, he goes back out on the Gliscor, and I'm just like, I'm gonna switch out now, predicting the Earthquake, and go on to Infantile version 13, and he goes for the Earthquake, and obviously it doesn't affect me, so I'm just like, oh yeah. So he goes for the Roost, and I'm just like, oh great. This is going to become a giant stall, because this is one of the stalling Gliscors. Unfortunately, Gliscor has a higher base speed than Togekiss. So I go for the Air Slash, and I'm like, okay, well, stab bonus damage isn't really getting me anywhere. And he goes for the Toxic, and I'm like, dot. I don't have anything that is immune to Toxic. Crap. So now I'm going to go for that Fire Blast, and it's just like, boom! And it almost takes him out. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I could have saved myself a lot of pain. So now he goes down to Tallahassee, takes Stealth Rocks, and I go for the Air Slash, and that takes him out. I'm like, alright, well, there goes one of his defense walls. And now I'm taking Toxic damage, and I'm like, sad face. So now he goes into Arthas, and I'm just like, you know what? Obvious Ice Shard, or obvious Ice Punch is going to happen, right? Nope. He goes for the Night Slash. I'm like, darn, he really predicted that one. But I take that fairly nicely after the Intimidate. And one second. And now we pick up the narration again. Sorry guys, my uncle called me. So he goes for the Night Slash, and I live, barely live, at 20 HP, he dies from Life Orb, and I'm like, oh yeah, like a boss. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to Extreme Speed here because I know I'm dead, and I'm just going to fodder off Tito because he has no use at this point. And he does a little bit more than I expected it to be. and he bullet punches me and takes out my Arcanine. So now I go back out into Infidel version 13, And he bullet punches me again, and I'm just like, guy must have forgot I had Fire Blast. So I go for the Fire Blast, and it's just like, overkill 999. I'm like, yeah, boy. So now he's going to go out into, I believe, yeah, his final Pokemon in his Gliscor. And this thing is going to wall me to death. Almost. It is insane. So he goes for the Roost. And you guys can, if you guys want, you guys can skip to like about 8 minutes in the battle. And that'll get you about towards the end. So I go for the Air Slash. And I'm like, well, now he's going to Roost spam me to death. And this is actually one advantage of having Pokemon with Levitate or whatnot. His moveset doesn't allow him to touch a flying type, unfortunately. But he can Toxic Stall me to death. So I go for the next Fire Blast after he Roost, hoping to God I can burn him. No burn. And I'm just like, oh crap, as my laptop informs me that it needs charged. Okay, I grabbed the wrong end. Alright, so he goes for another Roost, and I'm just like, well, I go for another Fire Blast, and I'm like, I don't got a lot of Fire Blast power points. So this could lead to be problematic. So I go for the next Fire Blast, and nothing. And I'm just like, dot, dot, dot. Face palming. Actually, I was at a coffee shop. And I'm like, face desk, face desk, face table. As he keeps roosting me, I'm just like, whoa, my God. At this point, it's just like, well, maybe he'll misclick. But, you know, this guy is actually a pretty good player. As you can see, he brings himself down to his last Pokemon and strategically walls me. But I do manage to do some insane stuff towards the end. Anyways, now Infidel version 13 dies, and I'm like, crap. So I go into Lightning, and I'm like, I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball, hoping to God he'll go for, like, the HP Ice, or whatever. And he goes for the Roost, thinking I'd go for the HP Ice. He goes for the Roost, and I'm like, my God. Because what I don't carry HP Ice in this set, because I'm like, Swampert, and Gastrodon more worries me than Gliscor. So I go for the next Shadow Ball, and I'm just like, well, this guy could have killed me by now. Instead, he's Roost spamming me, because he knows he can probably pull himself to full health, as I died a Life Orb, and continue to keep himself at full health. So I go for the next Shadow Ball, I'm like, Spadef Drop, go! Oh wait, I don't think I have any special attack Pokemon after this. So I get the Spadef Drop, and I die to Earthquake, and he Earthquakes me, and obviously I'm going to die to that, so I'm like, oh, crap. And he gets a useless crit, I'm like, oh, wow. Useless crit, LOL, for the win. So now I'm going to go out into my Draco, and I'm just like, finish him! As he goes for the Roost, and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to set up because I want to, like, kill this, take this guy a lot easier. So I go for the Dragon Dance, and I'm like, I pray to God this guy doesn't have Ice Fang, and I go for the Dragon Claw. As it does a little over half, it actually takes him out, almost takes him out. Crit! He lives! What is this? 1 HP? What is this nonsense? This sorcery? So he taunts me and is like, oh, I should have done that turn before. And I'm like, yeah, probably. So I go for the Extreme Speed, and I do take him out, and I do win. So good game, Ruben. Guys, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and keep on with me into 2012. Have a Happy New Year, everybody.